This episode of the Dungeoncast has been brought to you by Hero Forge. Hero Forge has fully customizable tabletop miniatures with dozens of fantasy races and thousands of parts to choose from. Their easy-to-use design tool lets you build the perfect miniature online using a fully 3D in-depth character creator right in your web browser. There are plastic and metal options for your custom mini. And Hero Forge even offers downloadable model files for users to 3D print their unique designs at home. Plus, they're constantly expanding the catalog of customization options. They're adding new parts every week and major features like races and custom posing on a regular basis. All you have to do is go to heroforge.com and you can start designing your custom mini today. It's super easy. Hero Forge is running a sale from November 25th to December 2nd. Be sure to enter promo code Dungeoncast to receive $5 off your first physical miniature.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Will.
I'm Brian.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons and Dragons, from foggy fields to formidable fighters, and today we're venturing into the far realm. The Dungeoncast. Welcome, Brian.
How far is it?
So far.
So fucking
the
far.
farthest, in fact. You can't go farther.
I hear, like, once you get there, it doesn't matter how far anything is.
This is true. This is absolutely true. So the far realm is an interesting bit of D&D lore, and I want to warn everyone before we go in. I'm going to speak in a lot of what I call Lovecraftianisms.
Yeah.
Because this is a very Lovecraftian subject. And what I mean by Lovecraftianisms
Have fun listening to us not describe anything.
Yeah, and what I mean about Lovecraftianisms is I'm going to say a lot. It's not going to really mean anything, but it's going to make you feel something.
Yeah,
and that's all you need.
It doesn't mean anything, but it means you feel it all. It means everything. It really is the absence of description really does leave an unsettling feeling within you.
It does.
Because it activates your fear of the unknown.
Indeed. So let's get into it. The far realm, also called the outside, is a plane of existence. For lack of a better word, it's not really a plane, but
it's like a soup of existence, of
it's
non-existence.
It's a plane.
Existence.
It's a plane of existence of madness and impossible geometries.
Yes, things that your human brain cannot comprehend.
Right. It is a realm that exists outside of space and time, an entirely separate universe beyond the bounds of even the most remote outer planes. It is an alien dimension of cosmic horror directly based on the work of American writer H.P. Lovecraft. It is the home plane for many aberrations and monsters whose very existence defies reality.
Yes, all true.
So the
fantasy true.
Yeah, yes, all fantasy fact. The concept of the far realm was introduced to D&D in 2nd edition by James Jacobs in the adventure module, The Gates of Firestorm Peak.
Nice.
The idea behind the module was to create an adventure with a distinctly Lovecraftian feel. And here's a byline from the module itself. Deep inside Firestorm Peak lies a portal to an insidious region beyond sanity and light, known only as the Far Realm. And the unknowable but hostile entities of this hideous okay, I must have wrote this down.
Yeah, just read it normal.
But the hostile entities of this hideous realm prepared to pass through into the world. Sorry about that, guys. So very Lovecraftian. Again, it didn't really say anything. It's just like, this thing exists and it's really bad. And like,
here's a portal to some shit I can't
that'll
describe.
also be bad. Yeah. But I actually hear it's really good. I think it broke top 10 best modules of all time on some website. So I don't know how factual that is. But I hear it's good.
Okay.
I hear it's a good adventure.
Word on the street is that it's fun to play.
Indeed.
Check it out.
So the third edition, the Far Realm was reintroduced as an optional / variant modification to the standard D&D cosmology. Which is like the outer planes, the inner planes, and
it wasn't an accepted part of third edition.
No, not yet. It was like a one-off thing in 2nd edition, and then 3rd edition was like, oh, that was cool. Let's have that as an optional like idea. And
so for their canon, they're not writing.
Yeah, generally speaking, it doesn't necessarily exist in all settings.
Right.
But here's an idea.
Okay.
4th edition then wove it into the new 4E cosmology as canonical. It's like, no, the Far Realm was real. And like, they did a lot of Far Realm
down.
Oh yeah, 4E did a lot of Far Realm stuff.
Shout out to 4E.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
What's up, Craig? Get at me.
Finally, 5E switched back to the standard D&D cosmology, but then integrated the concept of the Far Realm as canonical, just as 4E did before it. So have your cake and eat it too. To physically describe the Far Realm is by definition impossible. It is a theoretical it is a theoretical realm of timeless infinity that triumphs over the rude boundaries of matter, space, and sanity. It exists as an infinite number of dimensions beyond our ability to detect with our limited 3 senses, or Not three senses.
Limited.
The three dimensions. Sorry,
Yeah,
limited
that
three dimensions.
we use our 5 or 6
use
senses to.
3 dimensions. The far realm is
Have we
consistent
scientifically
of
confirmed
an
this?
infinite number of dimensions.
Have we scientifically confirmed a 6th sense? I think the the Earth's magnetic field is counting as a sense.
Oh, when it comes to human senses, we have far more than 6. We have like over a dozen different senses.
Ooh, I need to do some reading. Fun.
And a lot of it is really unintuitive stuff. Like proprioception is the ability to, like, when a ball is thrown, being able to detect where that ball will be and like grab it reflexively. Like, that's
depth
something
perception.
It's
like
not. That's not
reacting
just
to
depth
it.
perception. It has to do with like predicting and doing all this instinctually. And like it's something that human beings excel at better than any other animal on Earth.
Are you saying that if you threw a ball to me in the far realm, that I might not be able to go grab
It's
it?
so true. Because it's very true.
Fun. The
If you
ball would
threw-
show up behind me.
If you threw a ball in the far realm, it might not have ever been thrown at all.
Was there even a ball?
Indeed. So
I can't describe this ball. I was just holding it, but I don't know what it is anymore.
Indeed, all who have attempted to comprehend the nature of the far realm, mortal and immortal alike, have concluded their endeavor with a shattered mind at best, or had been subsumed and corrupted into aberrant monstrosities themselves.
That's the crazy part of Lovecraft stories is you see this unknowable horror and your mind is immediately obliterated into 1,000 pieces in a lot of cases.
That's very true. Still, D&D sources do make an attempt to spell out the layout and reality of the far realm. Much of it makes little sense, which I suppose is actually quite fitting.
Okay.
Like some of it just blatantly is contradicting, and it's like, well, I guess that makes sense. It's the far realm.
Or it doesn't make it makes sense that it doesn't make sense.
Exactly. So the far realm is comprised of an infinite number of layers. Unlike layers of the outer planes, these layers range in thickness from 1 inch to miles. They are also not connected. In fact, they're separated by 10 feet or so of void, nothingness. The layers are noted to be translucent nothingness, but the nothingness itself is thick and syrupy, and movement via swimming is possible. But it also is said that this place is no place, and that the only movement in the far realm that is done is through will of mind. So take from that what you will.
I guess like the tether that you have to your material reality allows you to propel yourself into the great abyss of the unknown. I don't want to say the word abyss because that's another thing.
Not the abyss, but an abyss.
Like Webster style abyss.
Sure.
That's just a regular definition.
So the layers of the far realm are also highly morphic. They are constantly and continuously evaporating, dividing, spawning, and breathing.
What's that layer where the Gith are from?
Limbo. Yes, which is similar.
Limbo's doing that.
Extremely chaotic, right?
Yeah.
Chaos incarnate.
And stuff is like it's amorphous. Like things are changing there on a constant basis.
And in the far realm, whether this is occurring like spontaneously or if it's the behest of the alien entities that drift through the layers, it's not really known.
Right.
It could be either or both or neither. Yeah.
I love this episode.
So although full of nothingness, the far realm is also full of bizarre scenes that defy logic. So rivers of milky white fluid floating freely, plunging through multiple layers, strange blue globs raining down from unseen heights and bursting when they come into contact with other objects.
All of Evard's nasty parts that you read in the spell description are just here.
Yeah, they're all just here. This is where they come
summon
from.
them from. Yeah.
And when these globes burst, insectoid monsters the size of horses emerge and scuttle off into the void.
Oh, good. I love horse-sized bugs or monsters or whatever the fuck you just said.
Insectoid monsters?
Yeah, sure.
Gelatinous worms and forests of writhing tentacled vegetation encrusted with orange moss and seepages of blue slime that dissolve all they touch.
God damn.
This place is gross.
There is a really cool and this is big spoilers for the 7th Dark Tower installment. So sorry, everybody. But Roland goes under this castle and one of these in the dungeon below as he's marching through it, there's one of these entities exists down there and it emerges and starts to chase him through this tunnel. It is insane. You describing all that just brought it back up. It's making all these weird noises and shit. It's got all these fucking tentacles coming out of its mouth
shit.
and eyeballs. And he's like, how does this thing even fit in here? Oh my God. My bullets aren't doing anything.
If I'm not mistaken, King's work with the Dark Tower trilogy, he has this idea of the primordial soup, which is essentially the far realm.
Yes, we talked a lot about it in the Great Old Ones episode.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's the same.
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
basically.
it's basically a lift from Lovecraft, which is
which everyone does because everything Lovecraft ever did was it's public domain. So
yeah, it
belongs
totally
to no one.
I mean, there's a lot of lifts that King pulls in those books. There's a lot of things, but yeah, he has his own version of the far realm, which is called the primordial soup, like you said.
Right. So many of the entities that call the Far Realm their home completely defy ordered classification. They are in their least alien forms, pseudo-natural creatures that are vaguely insectoid or cephalopodic in appearance. They float through the Far Realm on unguessable errands, dwelling past eons that lie between stars, and nestling in far planes of insanity. When these beings come to the material plane, they take forms that more closely emulate the physical structures of more familiar creatures. Beings such as beholders, aboliths, and mind flayers are some of the more tame examples of these beings. Other beings such as uvudams take forms closer to what they have within their own realm. These are creatures that look humanoid in only the vaguest of ways. They have 2 standard arms ended in hands, but their torso extends to a lower body that ends in 6 more arms splayed out in a spider-like formation, and where they should have a head, instead there is a tail-like appendage that ends in a hard spike.
Ah, damn! I thought you were gonna say another hand.
Oh, another hand. It's just hands. It's just hands.
So good at massages.
And it's just like, as these beings become more alien, they when they come to the material plane, they don't have the ability to become something more like logically structured. Like, logically, that creature couldn't exist because, like, it has no mouth. It can't breathe. Like, it can't eat. Like, but it doesn't need to because it's not like life from this world.
Yeah, you just need 2 of them to exist, and you spin one of them clockwise and one of them counterclockwise, and they feed off of the infinite high five energy.
There we go. That's all you need. Let's take a short rest.
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to the part of the episode where we're not talking about that last thing because we don't understand it. No one does.
No one
not
does.
even HP. Let's go. We're going to talk about how we are so happy that you are listening to the show and how much we love you for it. We're not going to forget this time. I'm never going to forget again. But I will always forget that guy.
Well, I love you guys too.
You just have to say it. Just step up, man.
I usually wait for you to finish.
Okay. That was that bit that we do. Here's the next bit. Congratulations to the person that won our contest.
Indeed, congrats. We don't know who you are yet, but we will know who you are, and when we do, we're going to let everyone else know who you are.
Right. Next step, next recording, which is a week after this one, we will announce you on the show. As of now, we're recording ahead of time, so we don't know who you are,
Indeed.
as Will has said. But regardless, congratulations. Somebody won a book, and it's getting shipped to them, whether you are on Instagram or Facebook or in our email or on Twitter. You're most likely on Twitter, but we don't know.
Well, I think it's going to even out because I think most of our contestants were on Twitter in past contests, but now it's starting to even out, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah.
There are lots of people everywhere apparently. Thank you guys so much for participating. The whole point is to spread the word about the show, and you guys did a great job. So thank you very much. Please continue to spread the word about the show by leaving comments on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that stuff. You can also just tell someone about the show. It's super good. Word of mouth is awesome. Mm-hmm. As I've been harping, leave us an iTunes review. It's super helpful.
It does.
Even if you're on Podbean, Podcast Addict, Google.
Doesn't matter.
Google Play, whatever it is. It helps the show's visibility, which is all we need. We just want to talk to you about Dungeons & Dragons and all your friends. So yeah, thanks a lot. What else we got, Will?
Check out our merch store.
Yeah,
we have t-shirts. We have mugs. We have, well, it's just t-shirts and mugs, but
T-shirts
we have
and
a
mugs.
lot of different t-shirts and mugs.
And they're available to everybody, and we're always looking into like new merch we can make and stuff like that. Speaking of new merch, we have a bunch of new merch available to you on our Patreon. You guys can go check that out. I still haven't updated the tier list.
Yeah, we got to update the tier list, and also I've just ordered the new test for the new custom item for our $20 tier. I'm not going to spoil what it is yet until I get the
I think we
test
already
item.
did.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Okay, well then you already know. Either way, the test item's coming.
Yeah, test item's coming. You guys can check it out. We will be featuring it on our social media in the form of photography at some point. So yeah, really excited for it. I'm really happy that some of the things I say on the show get turned into merch.
It's so true. It's so true.
That's fun. I say a lot of dumb shit on the show. I love it. I hope you guys do too. So I think with that, we'll get back to that show that we love so much.
Indeed.
There it is. Let's get it.
Into the
Go get the show, Will.
beyond.
Hurry, there it goes.
All right.
Have we returned?
We have returned.
I'm having trouble discerning my locale.
Oh, that shows that we've returned.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So before the short rest, I was talking about like creatures that are from the Far Realm that live there, and talking about how like some of the more tame ones, when they come to the natural world, take on forms that are still incredibly horrific and unnatural.
Wait, hold up.
Isn't like pseudo-natural?
Isn't the like outer plane, like the Far Realm, I guess argument is that the rest of existence is the abomination, and that one
could argue that, yeah.
Easily be like, rubbed out
we're
by
the anomaly.
Yes, and that everything the reality is this superimposition of all this weird undescribable bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like string theory out there, guys.
Right.
It's a whole bunch of shit you can't see.
So yeah, that is definitely one way to look at it, but what I was saying was like some of the more tame creatures from there have appearances that are more naturally attuned to the material plane, while others, as you get more powerful, become less and less likely to even be able to exist in our realm. And still beyond even these creatures, the Uvudans were the last ones I was talking about. There are countless types of unknowable beings, vast shapes drifting through the endless void, existing on multiple layers of the Far Realm simultaneously. Godlike entities whose very sentience is difficult to assess. These titanic entities, the smallest among them being the size of cities, swim through the nothingness, whispering awful truths to those who dare listen. Though these entities' desires and purposes are beyond the understanding of material beings, great old ones, which are these beings, are known to grant warlock pacts, and those daring and insane enough to be willing to forge such a bond.
Don't I know it, Will?
Indeed, don't you? These entities are powerful and unspeakable beings ripped from the nightmares of the darkest minds, so unfathomable as to be a perversion of reality itself.
I always find it enticing that the descriptors that do make it through are like parallels that we draw to the like Earth's ocean.
Right. Like,
swimming and tentacles.
Which is like stuff that's super alien to living on land.
Yeah, like the Cthulhu, right? Like that's something that like exists on the Earth, right? Or is that like a thing? Like it comes,
you're talking about actual Lovecraftian stuff?
Like it emerges from the ocean and like...
And the Lovecraftian mythos, Cthulhu was here like long, long before man ever appeared. Yeah.
Right, like the New World of the Worlds with Tom Cruise.
I guess, kind of like that. That's hilarious. I would watch a Cthulhu movie with that same kind of premise, where it's
with
like,
Tom Cruise.
With Tom Cruise, yes, I would watch it.
He would be great for a Lovecraft adaptation at this point. He's insane.
Yeah, that's great. That's too funny.
Oh, we should get Dakota Fanning for it too.
Of course.
And she'll be like, "What is that?" She'll just scream the whole fucking time. It'll be great.
Hey, I like that movie.
It's okay.
Anyways. I like the original too.
The classic is great. Have you ever heard the radio
show? Yes, I've heard it.
Oh man, I listened to it on Halloween a couple years ago. It was so great to like think about the chaos.
I can't.
Just like this episode.
Imagine. Indeed,
chaos everywhere.
So now the Far Realm is potentially a place that player characters can go to. You know, it wasn't in previous editions, but it is now. And though I don't know why a player would ever choose to do so, it's an option. So
man, how do you accomplish that feat? That's hardcore.
Portal.
No, just portal it.
Yeah, just portal it.
I really like, I have a really cool idea about, I'm not going to get into spoilers for nothing. No spoilers.
Gotcha. All right. So to exist in the Far Realm is to see, hear, and think in ways the mortal brain was not designed for. Exposure to this overwhelming of the senses and consciousness of an individual will eventually cause permanent madness, and even in small doses may cause permanent personality changes.
Yeah, experiencing this stuff is going to rattle you. You're not going to be the same after.
Yeah, absolutely. To add to this, the Far Realm is a place with a deeply tainting and corrupting effect. Much like the abyss. Travelers here may sprout eyes in horrific locations on their body. Their forms might slowly transmutate over time, sprouting extra arms, tentacles, spines, holes, teeth, etc.
Jesus.
Yeah. A mortal transformed both physically and mentally by the influence of the Far Realm become beings known as foul spawn.
Is anybody's armpit itchy? Mine's really itchy. What the fuck's going on in there? Oh my God! I can see! I can see from my pitties.
In the movie Army of Darkness, which is a great movie. If anyone hasn't seen that movie, go see that movie right now. Find it. It's still watching.
A Will Stark classic.
But
a cult classic for sure.
Spoilers for Army of Darkness.
Oh, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. Pause the podcast, come back.
But I'm not going to get into the details, but an entity gets inside Bruce Campbell and through his mouth, and like he swallows it. He ends up like drinking boiling water, trying to kill it. It's a really good scene, but he doesn't kill it, the thing starts to like grow within him.
Oh, God.
And the first sign that something's wrong, he's like, he gets an itch on his shoulder. He's like, what's that? What's that? And like he tears his shirt open and there's an eyeball. And he's like, oh my God. And then like from the eyeball, like a whole person starts to grow out of his body. And that's, I'm going to end that spoiler, but that's what this reminds me of. And your armpit bit.
Yes, thank you.
Of that. Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah. It's a good movie.
That sounds like a horrific thing.
Yeah. I love that movie. Where was I?
Where were we indeed?
Oh yeah, the corrupting effects and all that other stuff. Foul spawn. So this corrupting influence also extends to the material plane. So near the fringes of reality, where the veil between planes is thinnest, slits in this reality, which lead to the far realm, can be found. Through these slits, intrusions can occur. Now, these intrusions can be, things like aboleths, illithins, and beholders. Some say this is how these creatures came into the world. They ventured through these slits in reality.
Yeah.
But these places are also intruded by the far realm's influence itself, not just like the beings from there. And so these areas can end up suffering from bizarre warping and corrupting of the inert substances as the two realities begin to merge and blend, if you will. So spontaneous birthing of aberrant vegetation and creatures can also occur, as well as like all the weird bendy, timey-wimey stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah, any questions about that before I'm basically going to end this episode on a kind of a fun fact, and that'll be that.
Well, I do want to talk about another scene from the Dark Tower that you kind of reminded me of.
Oh yeah.
It's so spoilers for Wizard and Glass, or if you're going to read the comic books, the Marvel editions of like Roland's childhood, but there's the famous scene from the book, and it's like, I don't know if it's famous in like the community of people that talk about the books necessarily. Like it's definitely a highly notable scene, but in the lore itself, like this is something that gets talked about for a while. And it's this scene with a box canyon where young child Roland and his group kind of funnel a bunch of would-be, like if you don't become a gunslinger, you get exiled. Oh. But these people are still highly skilled.
Okay.
Right? Like they were training for a long time. They just didn't make the grade, so they get sent west, I think it is. You either go east or you go west, fucking whatever direction it is. My bad for not remembering. But they're out in the direction of the exiles, and they happen upon like a team of them, and he like tricks them into going into this box canyon like they're going in there. But Roland found this thing. They're like, you need to check this out, gunslinger, like there's some bullshit going on in here. And it's one of these places that's thin. Like they call them thinnies in the world. So it's like, oh shit, don't go anywhere near that. And he remembers it, and he's fucking outnumbered and shit, and that's how he beats them. He sends all these dudes into the thinny, they start getting like taken and stuff. Oh
shit.
It's the fucking wildest shit. Like when you read that part, you're like, it is horrifying. It is horror in fantasy. It is like,
that's really cool.
These events that happen with like these thin areas, even with like when we're talking about demons in the abyss, I really like the idea of like, well, the Jumanji board game is a portal, but this area is just like something's wrong. Like reality is rubbing against something that's making it thin, like how they describe.
Right.
And there's other things that happen with reality, like the bubbles of the Feywild and the Shadowfell and stuff like that. Those are different, but those
are slightly different.
Yeah, but there's like these thin areas are like, just having that around, if you're exposed to it, is just like a fucking mental like aberration of this like maddening effect.
Right. And you'll notice in D&D a lot of times like these areas are like in the deep places of the world, like where reality begins to end. So like deep in the Underdark, deep under the ocean.
Right.
And like this is why the Underdark's so full of aberrations and why it's so tied to madness and stuff like that.
It's exposed to all this shit because like just hearing, like people are always like, what's that sound in the writing? And they're like, I don't know. It's the sound of reality fucking fading out.
Right. Sure. Yeah. I like that. That's cool. So, I just wanted I got one fun fact. So there's actually one location within the far realm that's like a known static location. It's called Zazax, which is a silly name, but it's a cool location. So Zazax is this floating stone keep securely lashed to the trunk of a desiccated tree over a mile in diameter. This relic of the material plane, complete with barracks, kitchen, library, and laboratory, was an outpost for a group of wizards intent on discovering forbidden knowledge.
Yikes.
Yeah. What they found was madness. Daruth Winterwood, an elven wizard and former leader of the expedition, is now a gibbering madman with a brain literally filled with spiders. Like actual spiders fill his brain. Because this is the Far Realm.
He's like, who ate all my Cheez-Its? There's nothing but madness in this box. Yeah.
Indeed. Other powerful wizards and their servants still wander the halls of Zazax, their minds robbed of rational thought. It is said that Daruth sporadically rises from his deranged malaise and attempts to coax open a portal back to the prime material plane, dreaming of bringing the mad stone fortress to the world, and with it a tidal wave of insanity as the Far Realm spills out after it.
That's also reminding me of that gift stuff. Weren't there I'm thinking about.
Well, they have the floating fortresses in Limbo.
Well, isn't there somebody in like a ship, like a boat that comes, like they're sailing through, time has stopped, right?
Astral Sea.
The Astral Sea.
Yeah.
And because I remember, make sure you poop before you spend time in the Astral Sea. You don't want to spend all your time
Of course,
blocked
that's
up.
your touchstone. That's how you remember what I said in the GIF episode.
Hey man, whatever I gotta do to like retain this content,
okay.
right? So like that. Why is that ringing a bell? Like they want to like. Well, didn't they want to like come over and bring chaos with them, like or were they just like pirating around?
They're just pirating. They invade other planes and take shit.
So they're really good at like opening portals. So
yes.
So like these wizards, these mad wizards are just stuck up there. Like, how do I open the gate?
Yeah, and the reason that he can't is because he's insane.
Because he's an idiot now.
Yeah, I'm sure he could figure out if he was rational, but he can't.
Yeah, okay, he's defeated himself.
Exactly. Like this is again D&D. Like evil neutralizes itself.
Yeah, the classic D&D trope. Evil neutralizes itself until you need a plot hook.
Exactly. So any questions about the Far Realm?
Man, like what question could you ask about this? Like,
I mean, it's
unknowable place.
Yeah.
So like you kind of answered like how long can people survive there? Like mechanically, you're just making madness rolls, right? And there's an optional rule for that. So you're gonna bust out the DMG, make sure you get your ground set for like what is to come to your players. What level are you gonna throw players in at this?
With the Far Realm, I don't think that matters.
Yeah, probably
you know what
not.
I mean?
You can even do early level stuff because you can just reskin your aberrations.
For me, the Far Realm is a tricky thing to implement into your campaign setting because it's like, it's very unlikely that you're going to be like, oh, you're going to go there and like we're going to spend X amount of time there and you're going to do crazy shit. It's like, I don't know. To me, it's like the Far Realm is at its scariest when it's unknown. Yes. And you're not submerged in it.
Right.
And
when like go along with the Lovecraftian way of describing.
When the threat of the submersion is the punishment that will end all the characters' lives. Like that's how I would use the Far Realm.
Like it creeps
as
on
a looming
the edge.
Threat. Exactly. As a looming threat.
If it gets here, it's over.
As something that you interact with only lightly, and when you do, it's like horrifying.
Right.
But never more than lightly because you want that fear of like, oh, but what if it got worse, or what if we got caught up in it?
Right, because a Lovecraft story almost always ends with them being either devoured by the monster or going into the unknown or like my journal
or becoming
entries
a monster. That's a really common one.
Yes.
Becoming a monster, yeah.
The monster either shows up or you become the monster or you vanish.
I like the idea of like, if you're doing like a great old one warlock,
which I am.
Which you are, but not in just the more generic case, like maybe you pass through the Far Realm, made your bond with Yogg-Sothoth or whoever, and then this all happens within the course of a minute, and you're back out of the Far Realm, but now you're permanently scarred. You're bonded to this like eternal unknowable being, but like just that experience and what you saw and whatnot has affected you so greatly that you're mad now. You're this mad warlock,
right?
Because like. I was reading some things and it was saying like, some people when they pass through the Far Realm, just nonsensical things happen. Like they could suddenly experience in a moment 100 childhoods of 100 different lives that never existed. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
cool,
just random crazy stuff like that.
A brain overload flooded with like this random thought bubble that passed through them.
Exactly. It's like you could form a bond and a pact with one of these elder things without even meaning to. Just in the madness that ensues.
Because you've been set on this path, like they're doing kind of the same thing like devils and demons are doing, where they're like causing like a chaos effect, where they're like, if I have this guy, put this book here, somebody will come along and read it and eventually do this thing.
The
that
more
will
sentient
blah, 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 blah,
ones
blah,
do
blah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the dominoes will fall.
Right.
So like that's kind of what I feel like a great old one's relationship would be with somebody in the material plane, is either something meaningless and inconsequential or something very meaningful and extremely consequential.
Right.
And there's not a lot of middle ground there.
There really isn't. And that's one of the things that's kind of unique about Lovecraft's work, is a lot of times his godlike entities are hardly sentient at all. They're like giant slime beasts without brains.
Yes.
And like they just act instinctually, but they have the power of gods.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're always somehow like connected, like when we talk about Nyarlathotep or like somebody like that. That is technically a great old one. But
And then some of them are hyper intelligent.
Yeah. So you have
beyond
like,
intelligent.
So I think if you're trying to have a more like devil or demon style relationship, but have a great old one pack, then Nyarlathotep is a great option.
I would agree. You want one of the more intelligent ones.
Yeah. So just like if like keep in mind, do you think we should play the Call of Cthulhu game to like get more insight into how mechanically this stuff should work when you were like embedded into it? Is that like a
Call of Cthulhu is a very, very different game from D&D. Like
Yes.
I don't know how much you take from it.
Almost nothing. I've never played it. I only hear people talk about it. I know that it's like easy to die in that game.
It is very easy to die in that game. I don't know how much would transfer, is what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I'm sure you could garner something from it that you could use in your D&D game, but like I don't feel it's necessary for when I'm running it. But I can see it being useful.
Like, have you heard of a Call of Cthulhu style? Like, because Call of Cthulhu has Cthulhu in the name because like that's the one everybody knows, right? But like you're really playing a far realm or great old one campaign. Like that seems right now as where I'm at. I feel like I have a lot of good experience and knowledge with the great old one stuff and all that, but like how would I even fathom a full campaign like entrenched in this? Am I playing a city game? Am I playing a game like what am I doing?
I mean, you could do whatever you want. I mean, I think city game is probably a really good setting, like something's affecting the city.
Because that's probably like Call of Cthulhu that you're kind of playing in like a civilized area.
Exactly. I mean, you would just run a lot of the madness rules, the insanity rules, and the horror rules.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you're playing D&D, and
it's probably essentially
it's
the same.
It's still D&D. Like it's still paladins and wizards, but they're having to deal with this same problem. If you're trying to do something where the world is truly mundane, and they're dealing with the Lovecraftian stuff, then D&D would not be the game for that. That's the one thing that D&D can't really tone down that stuff, like the mundaneness.
Yeah, like you can have low magic settings, but having no magic settings is kind of taking away from an element that the game writes in.
Right, you have to do a lot of stuff. Like you have to okay, so only classes allowed are no magic classes, and you probably can't level up past level 5. 5 is probably the cap, which I know there's people that do that. And I know that even 3.5 supported, had books for that stuff where it's like, you hit level 5 and that's it. And like there was other ways to grow your character, but the level stopped.
If you thought about like the real world where I go to work every day or whatever, and a level 5 character rolled through doing what they can do, that's so absurdly powerful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, that's an absolute expert in whatever it is they're doing.
So like I guess like where you're going to have where are you jumping off from? Okay, that kind of helps me a little bit like picturing what that campaign might look like in a D&D setting.
Right.
Which I think is like, I don't think we've ever really talked about that. So that's cool.
But yeah, my phone's completely out of storage.
That's okay.
Let's get ready for the long rest. And before we go, we just want to encourage you to check out our live D&D live play on YouTube and in podcast form. It's called Super Quest Saga. It's a game that we play in space. It's a future fantasy game that mixes both sci-fi and technology with fantasy and magic. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, the game where I play a great old one-packed warlock named Carter Huttenberg, a like kind of Southern gentleman-esque insane person.
Indeed, it's true.
There's a lot of fun things that me and Will have planned for that, kind of now that we're in the, we're getting closer to some big stuff with Carter.
Indeed, a lot of stuff's happening.
So these episodes are great for me to kind of get into the role because there's definitely interactions that are going to be very interesting in that game coming up soon. So definitely jump in. It's really easy to crank out a bunch and binge watch them because they're like an hour and change usually. And And right now, as of this recording, we have roughly 30. We're kind of closing in on the 30 marker.
We're closing in on 30.
And yeah, so there's good 30 hours of content out there for you to fucking get in there and binge. And I promise you, it's very, very good. Tell your friends about it. I have a great time playing in it, and so do the other two players, Josh and Jake. We've got a Firbolg, however you want to say it. We like Firbolg here.
I say Firbolg.
It's FIR. But anyway, like if you jump into that, we got a Firbolg druid, we got a half orc paladin, and we got some really dope NPCs that are like tiefling based and like something I can't describe, which is great. Great homebrew. It is a homebrew campaign, and Will's doing a great job DMing it. So come check it out. We have it on SoundCloud. We're hosting it everywhere. Every place you can find the Dungeoncast, you can also find Super Quest Saga, including YouTube. So please go check that out. We really appreciate it. You can also check out our merch store, and you can check out our social media at the Dungeoncast on Twitter, the Dungeoncast on Instagram, and you can email us for ad inquiry, or if you have something, some questions, something you just want to say to us, thedungeoncast@gmail.com. I mean, we have inboxes on Twitter and Instagram too, and we get a lot of friendly messages. If I haven't responded to you on Instagram, sorry about that. I'm going to start responding to those soon. And email as well. I think we kind of fell off of that a little bit, but we get a lot of email. So yeah, thank you very much for writing into the show and for listening. We love you guys. So we'll talk to you later.
Talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Dungeoncast.